which is like voting and well, that's not really an advice process, but commenting in the forum, commenting in Google Docs. But I think this is like a good additional tool to have in the kit. Is this is kind of like what you did yesterday, Nate, right? Which is, I mean, that happened spontaneously, but Juanca and Sean, we were in the comms call, and Nate just kind of like happened to start talking about this cool idea for hosting basically events for other people, video basically. And I mean, not going into the details of it now, but it ended up becoming kind of a brainstorming session where Nate was able to get feedback. And I guess the thing that I think would be kind of cool in this is if, I mean, we could do it as just like spontaneous, like, oh, I want this, I want to talk about this, but it might be a little bit more valuable, I think, if like the week before, or at least a few days before this call, if people have specific things that they want to get feedback or advice on, we just basically reserve some time. We ask people how much time they think they need and then carve that out. Like Sean, you've done this on the TCAN calls a couple times with getting feedback on the TQF. So I don't know, I'd throw that out as one approach.
If I may, I can throw some ideas. Like, for example, how are we planning to manage the retro PGF, and what are we planning to do with it? And also to maybe reflect a bit on how we've been trying to find utility to the token, and capture value, but how the value's been created, and we've been able to capture also funds, but they are not in only one place, but that they are spread between the multiple projects that are TC related, as you mentioned, the T Academy and Praise and the Bonding Corp Reserve group and Gravity. And yeah, I've been thinking a lot on that, on how at some point we wanted to have like a Cambrian explosion of sustainable economies. And somehow I think we are seeing that at this point, that the TC maybe is not the holder and like the centralized point of projects, but that there were a lot of projects that emerged from the TC and into sustainable economies.
Yeah, I want to second that. I really agree with what you've said today, Juan, what you're bringing to the call, because if you do look at all the TE projects that have been funded by Retro PGF, it's almost $1 million across all these projects. And I think, we're in this space now with the TEC of reevaluating where we're at and what we want to do and what our priorities are for 2024. But I think we will come back to this idea of TEC as being a very effective capital allocation. We're very interested in capital allocation for TE public goods. And if we look at our constellation of partners that have been funded through Retro PGF, maybe we can provide to them some help in figuring out how to spend these funds. Because I'm with the BCRG. We're asking ourselves these same questions. What are we going to do with this money? At the academy, they're probably saying, what are we going to do with this money? at the TEC, we're saying, what are we going to do with this money? So we might be able to bring a little bit of innovation. It's like Gideon once said to me, budgeting for DAOs is cutting edge. Like it's so simple, but there's DAOs with billion-dollar treasuries that like don't know how to budget. And if we can bring some simple frameworks to this question, to the TE groups that are now funded, and we can help them evaluate how to spend those funds, and then it also puts us in a position of kind of connecting the dots and seeing across these different organizations and seeing where the aggregate is moving. Like what can we all do together? Because I think if we look at this as a holistic system of like the TE ecosystem just got injected with almost $1 million. That's even more exciting. That's even more exciting than the TEC just got $200,000. You know, it's like there's a bigger play here, and there's a bigger coordination, and I think the TEC can really help these groups evaluate their position and probably save some redundancies as well. There might be we might be looking at the same, I don't know, admin costs or whatever that the BCRG. Well, I think the first group here that I would bring in is the BCRG, because I mean I'm very much in between those two, and even before this funding came out, I've been really wanting to integrate those two groups much closer together, which is happening. We're going to have the BCRG open study session in the TEC Discord server this Thursday, so that's a good step towards keeping those moving these organizations closer together. But yeah, just putting that out there, this concept of if the TEC really can excel at capital allocation, then we're in a really good position now of like first figuring out how we spend the money that we got, but also maybe being able to provide like a bird's eye view to some of these partners that we have.
Sure. I mean, reading again the mission and the vision, like enable the creation of ethical, safe, resilient, and diverse economic systems to benefit societies around the world. All of the projects that have spawned from the TEC are having this impact and benefit on multiple aspects, and they are making their own safe and resilient and diverse economics. And I think if all of that would be under the umbrella of the TEC, it wouldn't be as much as what we've received by having these interconnected enterprises and this nested principle says. So somehow the fact of having multiple projects is helping to get more perceived value and more impact as nested enterprises than if we were like all under the same roof. And somehow I felt that was my motivation when I decided Gravity to like take a step out from the TEC, and was exactly like that. Like a specification in DAOs is good, and the best way is to do something really good than to do everything all at once, so that we can then like share the value that is being created, and yeah, and more on the ground stuff. Like for example, the way that I've been thinking on Gravity is to make a collateral, but I don't know, because I am afraid maybe to swap the OP into stables, and then maybe the OP goes up and we lost that opportunity. or also we could, for example, pay people in OP, but then it can happen that something that was worth $400 at some point, then at some point is worth $2,000. So it's hard to like pay people and pay salaries in tokens that are not stable, but at the same time, how can we um, try to profit from this OP that fluctuates, um, and see it as an opportunity also for long term holding or investment. So not like changing it and just swapping it for USD and then like losing the OP that can also um, grow in price in some time, and also the governance that holding it means. So yeah, I would like to talk with Griff on this because I know his take would be very interesting. Hello, Tam. Great to see you. To
Hey,
have
apologies for joining late. I had an important call that had to keep going.
we were mostly like brainstorming and sharing about our feelings on the retro PGF.
Oh, cool. You must be very excited, Juanca.
Yes, yes, I am, and um, I I was mentioning that I am very happy also about all the projects that are TC related, T Academy, Praise, um, the inverter, the bonding curve research group. So many cool projects that are receiving also rewards for the impact they're providing to the space. What do you think about the collateral YGG?
Well, I think you were talking about a sort of diversification of these tokens, but what do you mean exactly by collateral?
Like putting the optimism in a Aave collateral to borrow USD, um, and having the OP as a collateral.
Oh, okay. Yeah, interesting. It makes sense. Yeah, I mean, people want to get paid in stables, and you still want to be exposed to OP. I think there's probably, I kind of mentioned earlier, like maybe TEC can bring like some budgeting tools and frameworks across some of these orgs, but also treasury management. Um, like, I think being exposed to ETH, like I'm really excited about the TEC being backed by Rocket Pool ETH now. I think that's so cool. And there might be like a handful of tokens that I don't know, we could even promote, like OP, obviously TEC if people want to hold their treasuries in TEC. Actually, that's, Nate and I came across this idea as we were brainstorming a long time ago, token utility, which is like, what if we could just create a cultural narrative of DAOs? What if every DAO put, 1% of their treasury into TEC? Then the price of TEC would go to the moon. Like, I think it'd be really interesting for like a cultural movement to really promote TEC as a treasury option. Almost like it's like what is it, a UST or USD treasury note. um, TEC could be like the bond issuer of the token world. But just this idea that DAOs could hold like 1% of their treasury in TEC That would be really huge. But in general, yeah, I think budgeting and then also treasury management. I'm sure some of you know Mike DeMello. He's a partner I work with at Longtail, and he's always been really good at treasury management. He just because at Longtail, over the years we've gotten paid in different tokens, and Mike just generally keeps an eye on that, and we just sell tokens when they go up. So usually, if we get paid in tokens, we just hold on to them, or usually we'll about liquidate half of them off the bat for USD, and then as tokens go up in price, we just liquidate them over time, and that simple strategy has worked out for us. Yeah, there might be some simple, but it makes sense. People want to get paid in USD, like stable coins. Usually, that's the simplest way. And I think having exposure to some of these tokens that can go up in price is also a really good idea. Specifically about this contract, this collateral contract, I haven't used it, but I think it totally makes sense. Aave is very trusted in the space.
Should we meander back to this other topic that we were touching on about how to use these every other week calls? Or do y'all want to keep brainstorming on what to do with the OP infusion?
I feel like we could talk about the OP infusion forever, and with the strategizing on these calls, that we might be able to come up with a good approach in some short time. So sounds like a good idea.
So the last thing we were talking about is using the calls as a way to give people space, right? If they want advice slash feedback on a particular thing that they're working on. And then that's one idea. And then a related but separate idea is basically kind of queuing up, like having people sign up for slots. If it's not just like a 5-minute thing, if you want to take some significant time, then maybe letting the team know in advance and just putting it on the agenda as a specific thing that we want to tackle and like how much time you need. What do you all think about that?
I think it's a good idea. The only issue that I would be a bit concerned is that I think we've kind of like tried this approach of people suggesting agenda items with time in advance. And realistically, or at least in my experience, it's been really rare the time that people actually propose an item for the agenda. Because then what it happens is that the day of the call arrives and there are no agenda items, then the person who's facilitating usually needs to put together an agenda kind of like out of nowhere. I mean, most of the time there are a lot of things that we need to talk about, but then it all falls kind of like in the responsibility of that person. And I don't think we have been able to get into that flow of people suggesting things to talk about. Having said that, I mean, we could change that, right? I mean, we could try to commit a bit more to try to always bring, or not always, but try to come up and suggest agenda items and like what we were saying, show work or ask for help and get through this advice process in anything that we're working on. So I mean, yeah, I'd be down to giving it another try for sure.
One thing I would say is, I think this time, kind of how we're using it right now in this way of like completely open discussion is also quite valuable. Having a space where people can just drop in and just chat. I think this is quite valuable. But maybe that's a side point. I mean, you know, I don't know if we're talking about changing. I think we are talking about this block specifically. I think we do need a space where we can gather and have open discussion without an agenda.
Well, maybe we just try it open and try it for a few weeks, you know, and see how it works. That's one approach.
I mean, and I guess we can have it open and at the beginning of the call, similar to what happened yesterday with the comms call, just ask people if they have anything to add to the conversation, and then we can just put together collectively that agenda at that moment. I mean, it's a way less structured type of call, but I also think it could be valuable, and yeah, we could also give it a try. I really don't have any hard opinion on the type of format that we take on. You know, just trying to make the most out of it. But yeah, I'd be curious also to hear what others think.
I can also like share some ideas. Like, for example, now that the token is in optimism, how are we approaching the people from the chain, the people who is native on the chain, to know our project and to know our token, to know that it's backed by a bonding curve and all that. I feel that somehow we had that work done in Gnosis with the community in Gnosis. But I think maybe as it's a new token on Optimism, we can also like promote it there and promote not only the token but also like the TE Academy and um, invite people from Optimism to the Bonding Curve research group and like connecting with them. Like how is our approach to that community?
Yeah. It's funny. One of the so we're right in the middle of like in the there's like a process right now that Griff started, which is like, what are we going to do in 2024? What's like the strategic focus? And one of the options is just like really doubling down on optimism ecosystem and focusing in 2024 there as a way to inject more funding into the TC and then get it ramped up, you know, get ourselves ramped up again, to so that in 2025 we're in a really good position to take on some big things. And so we're going through that process right now, but it's very similar to what you're talking about. And one other thing I'll throw out is that I have an article that is still kind of in rough draft, but it's kind of about that. It's about the potential to work very closely with Optimism and the super chain in particular, and try to get them interested in infusing token engineering as like a core message in the super chain. You know, that kind of resilience and safety is like a defining aspect of what they call the law of chains. I think there's actually an opening there for the TEC and the Academy and this network of, you know, the network we're talking about to kind of resonate that message as like Optimism as the home of token engineering, you know, at least the initial nest for token engineering.
Yeah, I think that the migration is not only like on chain, because now the tokens are on Optimism, but it's not only that, it's a whole like shift towards and targeting that community, and also like a shift um, of that we think that the change was for the better. So like, what can we get from this change, and what can we get on Optimism that we didn't get on Gnosis? And for example, what we've been thinking in Gravity is that these past years, with our main like economic engine was making deals with communities to provide trainings. So we did deals with several communities, and we provided several trainings, but somehow we felt that the value that we were providing was being like kept inside the community and not like inside of Gravity. So something that we think is that we want now to host a training in our server, so that people come to our server, but also that we are doing it open and free for everyone, so that it's the value we're creating is not held by the community of the organization that we're providing the service, but we are being able to facilitate this meeting point for multiple communities. So somehow I see the TEC also as a meeting point, as a shelling point for multiple communities. So I think it would be good to also have activities here in the server to bring people back, and not only like hosting activities in other servers. At least that's what happened in Gravity. Like we had our server, but the activities we were on the organizations that we were providing services, and yeah, we want to have people back and contributing into Gravity, and we want to also design a second course, the same with a similar format that we had for the conflict management training, but on leadership. So that's going to be like our focus. The same thing as we developed a 3-month course on conflict management that somehow we have polished because we've given it several times, and we have an online course. We want to also run a leadership training in Web3, and then run an online course, and also be able to offer it to organizations. So I was talking a little bit of Gravity, but it's also just to give my perspective as a project lead, and also to make some similarities on how can the TEC also use all this to bring people to the community again. So I don't know, maybe we can also think of certain iteration of something. That's something that for me has always been like a big question, and it's like, okay, the TC is such an advanced product with the bonding curve that is hard to somehow like put something on top or iterate and say this is version 2, because what we have is already like the cutting edge of technology. But how can we also like have like a second product that is complementary to the first product. So that's what we're doing in Gravity. Like we have the conflict management training, but once that we did the conflict management training, we couldn't continue working with people because that's what everything we got. But we want to now have the leadership training so that we can offer the leadership training to organizations that already had the conflict management training, or offer one of the two depending of the needs of the organization. So how can we also like identify what's been some of the good practices or best products from the TEC, so that we can also iterate on them, um, and diversify the offering, and create additional value. Sorry for the rant. I am just giving my ideas.
No, yeah, thank you, Juanca. I think those are a lot of good ideas and suggestions. Um, yeah, I guess the other thing is that we might be like in a weird spot right now, like going through this strategy process. So that I feel that also make this feel a bit more unclear. Um, yeah, on kind of like what to tackle on this call. Um, we still have like 15 minutes left. So I think it would be good to at least get some consensus for the following calls. How are we going to approach it? I think everyone was agreeing to kind of like keep it open and see how that goes. So if we can get consensus on that now, maybe we can use the last 15 minutes of the call. I had this topic of um, the mission requests for optimism. I was looking some information yesterday, and in terms of timeline, I just wanted to double check with you guys if we are all aware on how's that going to work, and if we're gonna participate, and what should we do to get ready for that. But yeah, before jumping into that, just kind of like, is there consensus kind of like on the purpose of the call, at least for now? Or are there any still some questions? Oh, hey Joseph, how's it going? Good to see you.
I think I'm willing to try it out and see how it goes. But yeah, there's other things that we have to need to place focus on. We can repurpose the meeting for that as well. So I'm open to trying things.
Yeah, I'm down. I mean, my only concern is that if it becomes not that useful and we all kind of lose energy around it, then I think we need to be courageous and proactively change. Otherwise, everybody's busy, right? So if we have a time that is not that useful, then we don't want to keep doing that. So, but I'm going in. I go in optimistic that there will be value that will just bubble up spontaneously. I think it's worth trying.
What about you, Tam or Sean? Do you guys have any comments?
So in general, I find these calls that don't really have structure, and then we don't really have, a clear plan, a little more difficult than maybe some of the others in this call have expressed, because it doesn't feel as if we're using time the best way that we could, since we have so little time together. But I also think that it's actually just really a lot of work to manage the agenda for these for the calls, and to sort of follow up. So it's I prefer, as you're not going to be surprised to hear, calls with clear agendas and then actions that we want to follow up on. And it feels more comfortable for me to know that we're getting things done. The calls where we don't have so much to talk about feel less productive to me. Yeah, that's my thought.
Yeah, I'll just add. I agree with, like, I totally support what everyone's been saying. And from what Tamara said, I'm just thinking different people have different styles, and for me, I really appreciate this because we all work online. We don't get to just bump into each other around the water cooler. And we do have some very structured calls already. I think all of our calls are quite structured. The one I host around token utility, a little less so, but still has its structure. It's still structured, and I think having at least one space where anyone can bring any topic ad hoc and we could go on some different tangents, to me feels valuable. But I think different people have different styles. Like, I think if Tamara had spare time and space, she could probably bring a lot of structure to this meeting, and it would be very practical, and we could get a lot done. We can move things forward. We can check in on action items, and that might be just more effective overall. And for me, I'm thinking, like, how can we have ad hoc drop in? Like, sometimes I like to just drop into the voice channel randomly and, like, see if anyone joins. But that's a little too unstructured because usually it's just me in there alone. And I haven't been doing that recently anyways. But yeah, different people, different styles, and having some sort of space where we can, even if it's like not, if it's like super not productive, like we could talk about sports or something. Some space that's open, I think, is needed for this organization. I don't know if it's this call. Like, there might be a much more productive way to use this call. So that's kind of my perspective.
Can I jump in again? Because
Yes.
I actually really do agree with that. But for me personally, if this was going to be the Tuesday weekly call where anyone from the TC jumps in to hang out and build relationships, I might not make it every time.
Mm-hmm.
Versus if this was going to be a call where I understood how I could contribute and what was needed from me, and could follow up next week with my,
Right.
with the other contributors, I would be here every week. And so it's more a matter of, like, me knowing how to use my time wisely during the week, and what's expected, like, what's the purpose of this call? And if the purpose is to develop relationships, that's super cool. And I really do like that too. And I'll show up as much as I can, but I might not make it a point to be here every week. And if the expectation was this is the call where the coordination team, moves the TEC forward every week, and I'm here to see where I can support that, then I would be here every week. Does that make sense? Like, what I'm trying to understand, like, how can I best fit in and support the TEC, but also manage my time?
Yes. Having that information to inform members whether or not to join, I think, is really valuable. There's some days where I'm in the middle of, like, a coding project, and I just really don't want to join a meeting if I don't have to. And so, yeah, I see how that could be useful if we knew if the agenda was to hang out and form relationships. I too would probably maybe be here half the time, maybe a little bit more than that. But yeah, I see what you're saying. Having that information can really inform people with their own respective schedules.
I mean, I feel like the other factor to consider in all this is that, well, like in the past, we had Isaac, and Isaac was kind of like stepping up and guiding and facilitating these calls. And now with him not being here, and also at the same time that we go through this weird process of strategy, but also a weird process for the team, right? Because we're also kind of like restructuring the team. I feel that makes it even a bit more complicated. So maybe it's just kind of like a temporary solution that we can come up with. I do agree. I am more of the idea that yes, this should be more of a working type of session. I think it'd be nice to have the other type of sessions for building relationships, but maybe we can build another time and space for that. Because I do think that when we are really focused and there's a lot of things going on, we actually do need a time to talk about a lot of stuff. So it might be a good idea to try to bring more structure and to try to use this time as effective as possible. But again, saying that, I think that as long as we don't have a clear owner on the facilitation and on the putting together the structure for this call, that might be a bit difficult, right? Unless again someone would like to step up on that, at least as a temporary measure, just like Nate did for the comms calls on Monday. So yeah, maybe we can continue thinking about it, and in the meantime just try to go with the flow.
I have one question. Did NT request some time off?
No, he was able to find some other opportunities. So now he's no longer part of the coordination team, but he will still be in the advisor capacity, and he will still be involved at some level, but not as these kind of like day-to-day operations.
I want to give an idea. I don't know if we want to make like a hiring process or like a selection process. I mean, that'd be really cool if we can like tell like rock stars in the space that the TEC is needing this leadership role, and that maybe people would find it attractive to propose themselves into this role, and also that could incentivize voting from the community again. I feel that I proposed this when the coordination team first started, and I think maybe it can be an interesting moment to propose it again, to make like, hey, there's this role available, and who of the rock stars that has already contributed or that hasn't contributed but that has done important work in the space wants to like propose on it, and then we can make a list and have people like engage in this selection process. I think that that'd be cool.
Definitely, yes. You're right, Juanca, and we do have in mind to go through this recruiting process, and we were actually going to start it like this month, but with this strategy process that we're going through, that got postponed a little bit. So because at the end of the day, the strategy and what the priorities that we decide for the next year, that's gonna be kind of like informing the type of people and the type of roles that we're gonna need to be able to go through the recruiting process. But yes, it's definitely on our to-do list to go through a process like that, and to also take this opportunity to do it as formal as possible, to be able to actually go out and look for the people that we need to be able to cover the needs that we have, um, and try to do that the best as we can.
Nice. My only like the only thing that I would like to highlight is that I think that recruiting process shouldn't be like closed doors or like a small group of people choosing the people, but I think it would be nice if we can like make a voting around this, and like we've seen other DAOs choosing people like that for different roles, and maybe like, hey, put your application here. Yeah, I don't know, in the forum, so that everyone can see it, and then have everyone in the community like voting for it. I think it'd be cooler than doing that than like choosing the people out from the coordination team, like criteria, or even the advisory group. I think it'd be cool to also make our first or second voting on optimism for that. Okay, I will share, for example, this is how we choose the code of conduct council for optimism, and like people just like fill their application, and for example for this we had like um more than 10 people applying to choose 5 roles. And yeah, the same process was with the grants council. So just like, yeah, having some people putting their application saying, yeah, I want to do that, and then from that making a list and starting a voting process.
Yeah, I like the idea of doing it kind of like public, and doing this kind of like public announcement of going through a recruiting process. I'm just wondering, like for example, for these examples, how do they go about the selection process? Who chooses? Like, do all the community votes based on the application that person submitted, or is there any other steps involved in the process?
I think here was done through the badge holders. So um, somehow that's something that we can also think about, because um, we haven't had troubles reaching the quorum in the past, um, because the community was more active. But now that the community is less active, maybe it's being harder to reach votes, so we can like find delegates. That would be nice. I am just like saying multiple ideas, like just brainstorming. And for example, in optimism, the badge holders are the ones that represent the voting of the community. So this code of conduct council was voted by the badge holders. As we don't have badge holders, we would need to do it through like um, a community vote. That would be also something um, that would need more marketing than if we had some delegates. But yeah, I think that can be an option, or also a snapshot. I think even that we have the president of voting, for example, for the Guardian nominations in Snapshot in the TEC, or when we chose um, the one that was um, laser tag. Like the laser tag, we also like had multiple choices, and then we just voted to choose some people. And I think we can just say, hey, the DC needs superstars, and um, like have some requirements. For example, that the people that apply have to have TEC. I think that'd be super important, like at least 100 of TEC. And then, okay, you fulfill all the requirements. You have worked in DAOs before. You like fit for the role, then propose, and then out of the list, the community chooses from a signaling vote. It can be done on snapshot, or even it can be one person, one vote, or through token voting. I am just like proposing the idea, not like how should it be executed.
Yeah, thank you, Juanca. Yeah, it's always good to have more ideas added to the mix, and yeah, I think it's important to consider that those options to add as part of the process, definitely. So thank you for that. Well, we are already 2 minutes over the time. I don't know if there's anything else that people would like to briefly share, or if not, we can just end the call right here. So just for
Bear.
Thank you, Tam. Yeah, just super quickly, I'm just gonna share here in the chat in regards to the mission requests. Yesterday, I saw a publication from Bridges, like a, kind of like a presentation that she put together, and I just briefly skimmed through it. But there's one slide that talks about the schedule or the timeline for that. And there's a specific deadline that it's on the, I don't remember if it's the 17th or the 24th of January. So like pretty soon, or I don't know if tomorrow. So I don't know. I really don't have the context of mission requests. I haven't had the time to be able to dive deep into it. But I know that Gideon and Griff were discussing this possibility. From what I understand, is like a type of grant focused on a specific areas of optimism. And we were, I think, discussing that the TEC could have a chance to be able to participate on that. But again, in terms of timeline, also in terms of, I guess, kind of like managing this responsibility and having a clear owner and steps, I'm not sure how to handle that. So Tam, maybe you have more context on mission requests, and Gideon, maybe you too. And I know we're already over the hour, but just wanted to bring this to you guys' attention.
I don't have any more context, but I'll definitely have a look at the link. And I have to hop. I'm late for something else, but thanks so much, Baron. Thanks, everyone. Nice to see everyone again.
See you, Tam. I'm looking at it right now. I thought that this was, when I was talking to Griff earlier, I thought that this was already, had already been locked up. So I'm a little bit confused about what these cycles are. But we don't need to keep everybody here. Let me take a look at it, and maybe I can ping them to just see what this. I'll ask Pedro what this is.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah. I was also a bit confused, to be honest. So yeah, let's follow up on that. All right, everyone. If I think that's everything. Thank you guys, and I'll see you around.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye, everybody. Thanks.
Thanks, Bear. Bye.
Thank you, Bear.